All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're opening up the case file on one of the absolute most complex, heartbreaking, and frankly explosive sports scandals to hit the year 2000. We're going to look at the spectacular rise, the shocking allegations, and the massive CBI investigation that tore through Indian cricket. Specifically, we'll be focusing on the legendary World Cup winning captain Kapil Dev and how investigators tried to untangle a really messy web of money, bookies, and broken trust.
We've got to start with this absolute bombshell of an allegation. Former player Manoj Prabhakar goes on the record in a massive 1997 interview with Outlook magazine and says, "A senior Indian cricketer came to me and asked me to play bad and let Pakistan win the match." Now, at first, he actually refused to name names because he was getting death threats. But this single, chilling statement, it completely shook the cricketing world and kicked off a frantic search for the truth.
And the stakes in this shadowy underworld, they were insanely high. We're talking a staggering 25 lakh rupee bribe allegation just to throw a single match during the 1994 Singer Cup. When the CBI finally pushed Prabhakar during their inquiry, he explicitly pointed the finger. He claimed this massive cash offer came directly from his teammate, cricket legend Kapil Dev. So here's how we're going to break this all down today. We'll look at the initial match-fixing allegations, weigh the direct versus indirect evidence, hit those frustrating investigative dead ends, look at the lie detector hurdle, and finally unpack the ultimate CBI verdict. Okay, part one, the match-fixing allegations and those mounting suspicions. Long before the CBI or the Income Tax Department ever got involved, there were these early anomalies that really sparked nationwide doubt. You know, the suspicions didn't actually start with shady bank accounts. They started right out there on the pitch. Think about these bizarre on-field decisions. Like in 1991, India is chasing a target against Pakistan in incredibly bad light. Commentator Harsha Bogle even noted he'd never seen light that low. Players like Sanjay Manjrekar wanted to walk off, which, by the way, would have won them the match on a revised calculation. But they were ordered to keep playing and India lost by 4 runs. Then in 1992, Kapil Dev spared South Africa's Peter Kirsten from a man-card runout with just a warning, and Kirsten goes on to help win that match. Fast forward to 1999, Kapil is now the national coach. India is totally dominating New Zealand, but shockingly refuses to enforce a follow-on, which results in a draw. And the kicker? Bookies allegedly knew about this specific decision a whole day in advance. All these on-field choices, combined with an early tip-off from a bookie way back in 1995 about some fake modeling assignment, well, it laid all the groundwork for the massive CBI inquiry. Moving into part two, direct versus indirect evidence and how the accused stacked up against each other. What's really fascinating here is how the CBI strictly categorized their findings. It definitely wasn't a one-size-fits-all accusation. For players like Mohammad Azharuddin, Ajay Jadeja, Ajay Sharma, and Naya Mungia, investigators actually found concrete, direct proof establishing match-fixing links. But for Kapil Dev? Well, despite the massive public outcry, the media circus, and Prabhakar's allegations, the evidence they found was entirely indirect. It was all circumstantial. So what exactly was this circumstantial evidence? Investigators uncovered this rapid-fire list of highly suspicious financial anomalies surrounding Kapil Dev. First, a diary found in a raid on a businessman named Ramanik Chowda had the initials KD written in it, with 83 lakh rupees in cash listed right next to it. Kapil Dev firmly denied this cash was his and later successfully appealed it. Then, they found documents in another accused player's office showing a 100-acre plot of land bought way below market rate from a man named Kewal Joshi. Third, a luxury BMW gifted to Kapil by a South African guy named Ibrahim for a modeling assignment that had literally zero verifiable public record or contract. And finally, ad rights from a stadium lighting project were granted to AJ Promotion, which was a company owned by Ajay Jadeja and a businessman named Hiran Hathi, both of whom were heavily linked to fixing allegations. I mean, it paints a very concerning picture, right? Which brings us to part 3, hitting investigative dead ends and the frantic search for proof. So, with all those glaring anomalies we just talked about, why wasn't a definitive case built? Well, the summer of 2000 was an absolute whirlwind. It starts in May with a famous Tehelka sting operation. Journalists and Manoj Prabhakar used hidden cameras, right? They exposed players and officials like Bishan Singh Bedi and Ajit Wadekar, who suddenly started talking openly about fixing and Kapil Dev's involvement when they thought they were strictly off the record. This immense public pressure triggers Operation Gentleman in July. We're talking a massive multi-agency sweep raiding 90 locations simultaneously.
This included a grueling 38-hour raid on Kapildev's home and offices. The sheer pressure of it all forced him to resign as national coach in September. Yet, despite literally turning everything upside down, these huge raids completely failed to yield that one crucial piece of direct proof. And the absolute biggest problem for the investigators? Phantom witnesses. It's like a bad spy movie. The CBI tried to track down Kiwal Joshi, the guy who supposedly sold that heavily discounted 100-acre land. They tried to track down Ibrahim, the South African garage owner who supposedly gifted the luxury BMW. The result? They vanished. They were completely untraceable. The really crucial point to take away here is that investigators hit a massive dead end. The key individuals who could either verify or completely disprove Kapildev's financial explanations simply did not exist on the map anymore. Let's look at part 4, the lie detector hurdle and a massive legal roadblock.
With traditional leads totally freezing up and witnesses literally vanishing into thin air, things got desperate. Prabhakar took a really drastic step. On September 24th, he publicly demanded that the entire team, not just him, undergo a lie detector test. He argued it was the absolute only way to cut through all the lies and finally clear the air. This bold demand forced the CBI to sit down and carefully examine their legal options. Could they actually plug these players into a machine and demand answers? But here's the catch. They slammed right into a legal brick wall, the legal consent hurdle. Simply put, investigators have a strict legal inability to force suspects or witnesses to undergo a polygraph test without their explicit, voluntary consent. Because of this absolute unbending boundary in the justice system, investigators were completely paralyzed. They could not force Kapildev, or anyone else for that matter, to take a lie detector test. That entire avenue of establishing objective proof permanently stalled.
Finally, part 5, the final CBI verdict and the exoneration.
So how does this massive saga wrap up? On October 30th, 2000, the CBI hands over its final, exhaustive match-fixing report to the sports minister. Finding number 1 was definitive. They established direct proof against Azharuddin, Jadeja, and others, officially implicating them in the scandal. But finding number 2 was the headline that echoed across the globe. Kapil Dev was officially granted a clean chit. And here is why. Despite the mountain of financial questions, the highly suspicious activities, and that tangled web of indirect links, no direct link could be proved against Kapil Dev. What you really need to take away from this is a fundamental reality of the justice system. In a legal investigation, a mountain of circumstantial suspicion, no matter how tall you stack it, simply cannot replace the absolute necessity of direct proof. Without the phantom witnesses and without forced lie detector tests, the law dictated a clean chit. I want to leave you with this to chew on. When circumstantial evidence piles up, but direct proof totally vanishes, does a legal clean chit truly erase public doubt? It's a really fascinating look at the immense gap between investigative suspicion and hard legal reality. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you on the next one.